So last but not least, we have Samantha Keay. Samantha is an experienced headhunter and recruitment leader within e-mobility at Piper Maddox. Samantha leads the clean tech division and manages a team of consultants that recruit into e-mobility, autonomous driving and grid edge. Hi, Samantha. So as someone bringing people into the e-mobility industry, have you seen any parallels between some of the female clients' journeys that you've witnessed and your own career?
Yes, absolutely. And first of all, yes, just thanks for having me. It's been a really great panel discussion so far. I think recruitment, first and foremost, as an industry, is extremely male dominated. And I think that diversity and inclusion is something that I, as a recruiter, am really passionate about, because it's something that I feel I can have a direct impact on behalf of my clients. Ultimately, my clients are the ones who decide who they want to hire, but that comes from a short list of who we present to them. And so we truly believe that if we haven't provided them with a diverse or gender balanced shortlist, then we've not really put them in the best position to build a diverse workforce. And then I think for myself personally, I've been really, really fortunate since building out our e-mobility division in 2017 to have worked with some amazing, futuristic and innovative clients, and also internally to have been afforded this opportunity at the company that I work for and have been for the past 6 years. But ultimately, being female and with less than a decade of experience under my belt, I've definitely been on the receiving end of some gender and perhaps age biased comments. One company in particular just this year told me on a video call, whilst on paper my expertise and my firm's reputation was best in the market, they were really concerned that their senior stakeholders wouldn't buy into my capabilities because I look so young. Which, maybe it's shocking that that's still happening, maybe not. But because of this, it really is, and I'm trying to make it my mission to use my role to drive that gender balance forward within the e-mobility industry.
Thank you. Yeah, it's true. We need this at all levels, from entry level right the way up. And you mentioned some interesting challenges there. Could you tell us a little bit about your own career journey?
Yeah, sure. So I've actually been in recruitment for my whole career to date. Started out in executive search. And since joining the LHI Group, which is the parent company of Piper Maddox, I spent the first 2 years in technology recruitment in the UK. And that was really enjoyable, but the market was quite saturated. And I was definitely looking to move abroad to broaden my horizons. And really passionate about finding an industry that was perhaps a little bit more untapped. At which point the opportunity with Piper Maddox, which is our newest brand, we only established in 2015, an opportunity came up to build out the e-mobility division, and my head of Piper Maddox was looking for somebody ideally who already existed in the business to make that transition as easy as possible. We were really successful at the time in wind, solar and energy storage, but we had no industry connections or really and truly, I don't think we had too much of an understanding of what e-mobility was or what e-mobility was going to be. So that was my role when I moved to New York to sort of try and figure out. And by no means was that a difficult transition at all. Because by 2017, it was certainly on the cusp of disruption. And I actually found it very, very easy to build out my network within e-mobility and start adding some real tremendous value to some of our clients, because we were one of the first to say that we solely specialize in this space. Our proposition was and still is really compelling.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I should say, anybody with a question for Samantha, like you've been doing, please put it in the Q&A box. And we'll hopefully get to it a little bit later. So also, Samantha, being in recruitment, how do you kind of have this focus and ensure that there's fair recruitment processes?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think it's something that we need to strive for internally at Piper Maddox, as well as on behalf of our clients. So yeah, Barbara, our first speaker, mentioned, women are such a key consumer segment in all sectors of the economy. And 80% of all household car decisions are actually influenced by women, yet they only account for less than a quarter of the workforce within automotive. And so I think that there are so many things that can be done to help drive fairer recruitment processes. I think internally, we have our own D&I placement ratio targets that, have nothing to do with our clients' objectives. But I guess to talk about some practical examples, gender analytics tools for job descriptions and job adverts, if you're not using an external recruiter, I certainly think are not going to do any harm whatsoever, and I think are an important tool. You've probably all heard the statistic that men apply for a job when they meet 60% of the qualifications, but women only apply when they meet 100% of the qualifications. So it's certainly something to bear in mind. I've also talked about with various clients, that have specific gender diversity objectives, anonymizing resume submissions. We have to be really careful. We can't only present a certain category of candidate, as that would be positive discrimination. Things like making sure that senior female involvement in an interview process, in addition to that HR screen, is at the forefront of our clients' minds. But it starts from us, as I mentioned, in the recruitment process. We have to be fair and be forward thinking in the way that we want to attack diversity, and be an extension of our clients' diversity objectives as well as our own.
That's great, thank you. So we've got some questions. I'm going to dive right in here for you. First one, do less women apply for senior roles? If women aren't applying for the jobs, how can they be encouraged to apply or be recruited?
Yes, it's a really good question. I think, it varies. So we're industry focused, yet we recruit across all different business functions. So on the commercial side and sales and business development, this year we've probably placed more female than men, which is something that we're quite proud of. But on the engineering side, which, clients typically tend to use us where they need us the most, and that's often with some of the really super technical, tricky to build skill sets. Yeah, the fact of the matter is that, there are less women out there, and therefore by extension, less females apply. In terms of, what we can try and do to combat that, I think it's really, really important that our hiring managers, are brave enough to talk about their desire. Hopefully when hiring, they're already partnering with a headhunter who's passionate about diversity objectives. But, sometimes we find they're afraid to ask. And, the more we know about their objectives, the more that we can do to help. So, yeah.
That's great, thanks. Another one here asking for your advice. Is there an ideal time to stay in a role so that it looks good on a CV? 20 years ago, managers frowned at moving roles every 2 years, but even as a manager, this often feels the best length of time to learn, develop, and then move on.
It's a really good question, and a lot of people ask me this question. I think gone are the days where, to be a lifer at a certain company is actually desirable. We still have different mindsets across the industry. I think, so I'm based in the US, in the Bay Area, less than 2 years at any company, no eyebrow would be raised.
Wow.
And the industry is moving so quickly. But I would say anything less than 2-year tenure should have an explanation, not necessarily into detail of what happened, but, some rationale behind why you decided to make a move away from that after, less than 2 years. I would say, particularly in e-mobility, as long as you're staying at companies for more than 2 years, then I don't think you would be perceived to be jumping around.
No, that's good advice, thank you. When you were explaining your kind of experiences before, somebody's got a question on that. So they said, when you were told you're too young, how did you tackle that as an issue that you obviously couldn't change? did it make you more determined to prove those people wrong?
So it definitely made me more determined, particularly because he caveated it by saying on paper, we seemed like the best firm to partner with said anonymous business. My reaction immediately was to laugh it off and say, wow, I've never had that before. But yeah, it really disappointed me and maybe, dare I say, angered me a little. We didn't actually win that piece of work, which I don't know, maybe it was that, maybe it was something completely unrelated. But yeah, it definitely makes me, and my colleagues and my my team more and more determined to combat those biases, whether it's about age or gender.
That's great. We've got time for one more question, and this is quite interesting for me too. Do you think more can be done to encourage high school age girls into the automotive industry?
It's such a good question, and it's something I'm really, really passionate about. Right now, let's take a specific segment of the industry, battery development. There's going to need to be an 8-fold increase in the supply of lithium-ion batteries to be able to make up for the demand that analysts are foreseeing in the next 8 years. There are not enough people graduating with these engineering degrees to be able to make up for the workforce that's going to be required. And so I think it's so important for businesses large and small to be getting their name out there, to be showing young females or just young adults of high school age, or maybe even prior to that, of what a career path could and would look like within e-mobility, particularly for engineering. So I've spoken to a lot of CEOs. They're obviously more inclined at college age or university age, because that's where they feel they're going to see a direct benefit from that. If they've spoken to somebody who's graduating within an 18-month or 2-year period, then they may be able to poach them to join their business. But I really think it needs to start sooner, and it needs to start at an earlier age.
That's great. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Samantha. We'll see you again in a couple of minutes for the rest of the panel.